Shalom and welcome to Temple Talk. This is Yitzchak Ruvain speaking to you from south of Jerusalem here in the beautiful, holy, blessed land of Israel. Today is the 23rd day of Adar Sheni, second Adar. The year is 5784. It's April 2nd, 2024. This coming Shabbat we read the third Torah reading of the book of Leviticus, Vayikra. The Torah reading is called Shmini, the eighth day. Begins in the book of Leviticus, chapter 9, verse 1, concludes chapter 11, verse 47. This Shabbat, we are also reading the fourth and final of the four special Torah readings, Parshiot, that we read during the month of Adar and in anticipation of the upcoming month of Nisan and, of course, Passover, Pesach, which takes place on the 15th of Nisan. And, of course, very appropriately, this week's extra reading, additional reading, is called Parshat HaHodesh, the month, the new month. It is the reading from the book of Exodus, chapter 12, verse 1 through verse 20. The section of the Torah where, whilst still in Egypt, Hashem tells Moshe to tell the people that this is the first of your months, and commands Israel, the first commandment they receive as a nation that hasn't even left Egypt yet, which is to reckon the month, to be in charge of the recognition and sanctification of each new moon. Each new moon begins the new month. And of course, in this particular case, they needed to do that so that they would know precisely when to slaughter their Korban Pesach, their Passover offering, and when to have the Seder, and of course when to exit Egypt. So we are entering we're already in very exciting time of the year of the Hebrew calendar. This past month of Adar, many things have been happening. The special readings, Purim, of course, the Machatzit Shekel, the half shekel offering, and now we are gearing up for Passover. In the meantime, we'll be talking about all these things, but in the meantime, just some brief updates about the war situation here in Israel. Israel recently completed its second operation, no pun intended, in the Shifa hospital in Gaza, which had been converted from a hospital basically into a terrorist headquarters. And after Israel, a couple of months ago, first entered in and cleaned out the terrorists from there, they apparently thought Israel would not go in again. So over 1,000 terrorists, Hamas and other jihad terrorists, gathered within Shifa hospital and were using it as headquarters, and Israel surprised them and killed hundreds of them, captured hundreds of them, and among the killed and captured were top terrorist commanders of Hamas and Islamic Jihad. So it's a huge accomplishment for the army, and God willing, some of the intelligence that we're able to gather from interrogating the captured will help us in our next mission, which is, of course, entering into Rafiah, sometimes called Rafah, where the final stronghold of Hamas is and their leadership. And also we are under the belief that our hostages are being held there as well. And of course, there's been tremendous opposition worldwide to Israel entering into Rafah, claiming that it's going to cause a bloodbath. But it seems, when you read between the lines, that the real reason the world is opposed to Israel entering into Rafiah is that will end the war with a decisive defeat of Hamas. If Israel doesn't enter, then Hamas lives to fight another day, which seems to be what much of the world, at least the world leaders, would like, including coming out of the United States, where their policy has just basically it's schizophrenic. tremendous support on the one hand and tremendous opposition on the other hand. And Biden seems to be juggling a lot of things, including his own political fortunes with this. And again, one of the lessons that Israel has learned very, very seriously is that it needs to become less dependent, even on our greatest ally, the United States, less dependent for military supplies. And of course, this is one of the big concerns in Israel, that the United States has threatened to cut off supplies. Although, once again, Biden just the other day signed a tremendous amount of ammunition to be delivered to Israel. So, who knows? The other big news is that Israel, we assume it's Israel, knocked off the very top Iranian Revolutionary Guard chief in Damascus, along with a bunch of other top terrorists. And of course, this is the biggest blow to the Iranians in terms of personnel being lost since Soleimani was taken out by Trump way back when. So this is a big accomplishment for Israel. And of course, Iran will try to retaliate in kind, so everybody is on alert. So yes, the war goes on in the north and in the south, and Israel's being attacked once again. And not only is there a war in Gaza, not only from Hezbollah in Lebanon, but also from Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria, and also, of course, by the Houthis in Yemen, and the Russians are currently building up a base right outside of the Golan Heights. So I don't know about you, but for Israel, this is world war. This is world war. There's the military war, and there's the diplomatic war. There's the war of public opinion, and we're at war. World war. It's a war of our survival. It's an existential war for Israel. Let us look at Parshat Shmini. Parshat Shmini begins, as I mentioned before, in the book of Leviticus, chapter. Oh, I just lost my place. Give me a moment. Chapter 9, verse 1. Let's read the first few verses in Hebrew, then in English. Vayom hashmini korav Moshe la'Aaron ulevanav uziknei Yisrael vayomer el Aaron kach lecha egel ben bakar lachatat va'al ola tmimim va'akrev lifnei Hashem ve'el bnei Yisrael tedaber lemor kahu seir izim lachatat ve'egel lakeves ve'egel vakeves bnei shana tmimim la'ola. Okay, it was on the 8th day. The 8th day of what? As we recall, when we concluded the book of last week's reading, I should say, Parshat Tzav, Moshe was instructed Aaron and his sons to basically be rehearsing their roles, their responsibilities in the tabernacle, so that they'll be ready for this, the 8th day, for 7 days, known in Hebrew as the 7 days of Miluim, Shiva Yemei Miluim. 7 days, a word that today is used for reserves duty in the Israeli army, Miluim. For 7 days they practiced, and then the 8th day was the day of the inauguration and dedication of the tabernacle in the wilderness. All that effort that we've been reading about, all those details about how the entire people built this, and the materials they use, and lengths and widths and heights and materials, and well, it was all for this grand and glorious day, the 8th day, which was actually the first day, Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So in terms of the timing of our Torah reading, Shmini, including our extra Torah reading on Chodesh, which is about the month of Nisan, And the fact that the month of Nisan actually begins next week. Rosh Chodesh Nisan is next Monday evening, Tuesday. Everything's just falling right into place. So let's read those first few verses in English. I'm going to read a little more in English now. It was on the 8th day Moshe summoned Aaron and his sons and the elders of Israel. He said to Aaron, "Take for yourself a young bull for a sin offering, and a ram for a burnt offering, unblemished, and offer them before Hashem. And to the children of Israel speak as follows: Take a he-goat for a sin offering, and a calf and a sheep in their first year, unblemished, for a burnt offering, and a bull and a ram for a peace offering to slaughter before Hashem, and a meal offering mixed with oil. For today Hashem appears to you." Right? First day of the inauguration, Hashem's going to appear. They took what Moshe had commanded to the front of the tent of meeting, and the entire assembly approached and stood before Hashem. Moshe said, "This is the thing that Hashem has commanded you to do. Then the glory of Hashem will appear to you." Moshe said to Aaron, Come near to the altar and perform the service of your sin offering and your burnt offering, and provide atonement for yourself and for the people. Then perform the service of the people's offering and provide atonement for them, as Hashem has commanded. Aaron came near to the altar and slaughtered the sin offering calf that was his. The sons of Aaron brought the blood to him. He dipped his finger into the blood and placed it upon the horns of the altar, and he poured the remaining blood upon the foundation of the altar, and the fats and the kidneys and the diaphragm with the liver and the sin offering he caused to go up in smoke on the altar, as Hashem had commanded Moshe. And the flesh and the hide he burned in fire outside the camp. He slaughtered the burnt offering. The sons of Aaron presented the blood to him, and he threw it upon the altar all around. They presented the burnt offering to him in its pieces with the head, and he caused it to go up in smoke on the altar. He washed the innards and the feet, and caused them to go up in smoke on the burnt offering on the altar. He brought near the offering of the people. He took the sin offering goat that was for the people, and slaughtered it, and performed the sin offering service as for the first one. He brought near the burnt offering and performed its service according to the law. He brought near the meal offering, filled his palm from it, and caused it to go up in smoke on the altar aside from the morning burnt offering. He slaughtered the bull and the ram, the people's peace offering. His sons of Aaron presented the blood to him, and he threw it upon the altar all around. As for the fats from the bull and from the ram, and the tail, the covering fats, the kidneys, and the diaphragm with the liver, they placed the fats upon the breast, and caused the fats to go up in smoke on the altar. Aaron had lifted up the breast and the right thigh in a way of service before Hashem, as Moshe had commanded. Aaron raised his hands toward the people and blessed them. Then he descended from having performed the sin offering, the burnt offering, and the peace offering. Moshe and Aaron came to the tent of meeting, and they went out and they blessed the people. And the glory of Hashem appeared to the entire people. A fire went forth from before Hashem and consumed upon the altar the burnt offering and the fats. The people saw it and sang glad songs and fell upon their faces. Wow. This is opening day of the tabernacle, the Mishkan. And Aaron was super busy. He had so many things to do. And of course, everybody was completely enwrapped in awe of what they were witnessing. This was the very first time that any of this was happening. And of course, the absolute crescendo, the highlight, the climax of the entire day began, I should say, with Aaron raising his hand, giving the blessing, Birkat Kohanim, the priestly blessing that we read about in the book of Numbers. And that was also, this exact scene was given a preview. It's mentioned very briefly toward the conclusion of the book of Exodus, that Aaron and Moshe blessed the people. And this is when it happened. It was sort of a preview in anticipating what was going to happen here, but here we have it in full detail. They gave the people a blessing, and after that, the glory, the kavod, the anan, the presence, the Shekhinah of Hashem appeared to everybody. Saw, what should we call it, the presence and appearance of Hashem. They saw, was it something that they saw visibly with their eyes, or they saw internally We don't know. But there was this concept, there was this cloud, this Anan, which of course was always hovering over the tabernacle, which represented as well the presence of Hashem. But they witnessed it and threw themselves upon the ground. Well, actually, they witnessed it, and then right after that, or immediately, they witnessed fire descending from heaven, lapping up the offerings that were on the altar. And then they threw themselves upon the ground, and it's translated as sang glad song. It's a specific word in Hebrew. That word is Vayaronu. Vayaronu, which is a word which means to shout joyfully, not necessarily to sing words, but simply to vocally express intense joy and amazement. And that's what they did. And wow, that doesn't get any better than that, right? This is one of the highs of in the history of Israel, one of the highs in the history of humanity, because Hashem's presence has descended and filled the tabernacle and made itself manifest to everybody present. And we're going to take a brief departure right now from our Parsha. We're going to talk about Parshat HaChodesh, because it all comes together. Parshat HaChodesh, as I mentioned before, is the first 20 verses from the book of Exodus, chapter 12. And let's just have a look at that right now. Hashem spoke to Moshe and to Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, "This month shall be to you the head of the months. To you it shall be the first of the months of the year. Speak to the entire community of Israel, saying, on the 10th of this month, let each one take a lamb for each parental home, a lamb for each household." And goes on, of course, to describe in detail slaughtering the lamb, preparing what needs to be eaten and prepared for the Passover Seder, which will take place. The lamb is slaughtered on the 14th, and on the 15th in the evening. So, of course, the 15th begins in the evening. As this Passover Seder, the first ever in the land of Egypt, and of course in preparation for leaving from Egypt. And that is what we read. And of course its significance is that it's giving us a heads up that we got to get ready for Passover, which we don't have to do all the preparations, the exact preparations that were done in Egypt, but we have so much to do at getting ready for Passover, cleaning our houses completely of any chametz, of any leavened bread, any leavened food products, including whiskeys, crumbs. Anything has to be finished or removed or destroyed. And of course, we have to purchase our matzot or bake our matzot, our matzahs, and prepare the other special foods eaten in the Seder. And some people will be slaughtering lambs as a zecher, really, as a remembrance of when we did it in the Mikdash, in the Holy Temple. And of course, as every year, there already has been filed a petition to the police for permission to bring a lamb up to the Temple Mount to have it slaughtered there. Of course, it will be rejected, as it always has been. But yes, there's much to do. Now, one of the things that we know about the month of Nisan is that we say that Nisan, which is the month of our Geula, the month of our redemption from Egypt, and our sages tell us it will be the month of our future redemption. May it be soon. And there are 10 crowns we learn that adorn the month of Nisan, and we read of those 10 crowns, most of them in what we've just been reading. And those 10 crowns are: 1, it was the first day of the week, meaning it was a Yom Rishon, a Sunday, following the Shabbat. It was the first day that the Nisi'im, the 12 tribal leaders, the 12 heads of the tribes, begin to bring their gifts to the tabernacle, which we read about in the book of Numbers. Each one brought an identical set of things to be offered in silver and gold. And we read each one in the book of Numbers. Number 3, it's the first day that the kuhuna, that the priesthood of Aaron was put into effect, took charge. It was the first day that the offerings were offered on the altar in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle. It's the first time that a fire descended from heaven onto the Mizbeach, the altar. And of course, there was a second time, and that was when King Solomon dedicated the first temple. Number 6, the first time that the Kodesh, the sacred food, the food that had been sanctified, was eaten by the Kohanim in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle. It was 7. That was the first time that the divine presence, the Shekhinah, rested amidst the people, right? God said it back in Exodus, Vasudi Mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham, and they will build for me a sanctuary, and I will dwell amongst them. Well, they built it, and now he's dwelling amongst them, right? Partnership all the way. That's what it's all about. It was the first time that the Kohanim, the temple priests, led by Aaron, the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, blessed the people with Birkat Kohanim, the priestly blessing. Number 9, it was the first time it was forbidden to perform offerings to Hashem on an altar outside of the Mishkan, right? This became a very important thing, and something that the nation of Israel struggled with for centuries. The people would continue to make offerings to Hashem. They were, good Jews, making offerings to Hashem, but there was a prohibition from this point on of doing so outside of the tabernacle and later the holy temple. And number 10, it was the first month of the year. So this is 1 year after what we read about in Parshat HaChodesh. 1 year after Hashem told Israel in Egypt, this is the first of your months. So in that 1 year, we look at the generation of the wilderness, and we say, oh, they did a lot of complaining. They did a lot of unsavory things. They, Chet Egel, the golden calf. They were rebellious. They were tough. They were stiff-necked. Hashem at one point wanted to just wipe them out. But here in 1 year, they've left Egypt. Huge accomplishment. And not simply, Hashem led them out. But had they not had the courage to go out, had they not had the courage to take a lamb and slaughter it in front of their Egyptian neighbors when it was forbidden to slaughter a lamb, had they not had the courage to do these things and to walk with Hashem, they wouldn't have left. Yam Suf, the Sea of Reeds, yes, Hashem opened it up, and yes, they were scared and they were complaining and they wanted to go back to Egypt, but ultimately they walked into the sea. They did it. And, the manna, collecting the man, they also had to learn how to do that. It wasn't a simple thing, and it taught them about the weekdays, and it taught them about Shabbat, and they accomplished all that. They had to fight Amalek, and they were unprepared for it, and they were surprised by it, but they got it together, and they fought off Amalek. They came to Mount Sinai, Har Sinai, and they received the Torah. Unbelievable. They had to be prepared to do that. They were terrified, but they were prepared, and they heard it, and they heard Hashem's voice, and they swore to accept everything that Hashem says and to do everything that Hashem says. Huge. These, it's a baby nation, but these aren't baby steps anymore. These are huge steps. These are, to quote the astronaut who landed on the moon, these are great major steps, leaps for mankind. And finally, they built the tabernacle. All this within 1 year. It's incredible when you think about it. It's incredible. So much they accomplished in a single year. And this is what we celebrate each year from the beginning, very beginning of the month of Nisan. Throughout the month of Nisan, we do not say the Tachanun prayer. The Tachanun prayer are certain prayers, certain verses of entreaty to Hashem, certain verses of imploring Hashem to, give us a break, even though we've come up short so many times. These are important tefillot, important prayers that we say every day, both in the morning tefillah, shacharit, and in the afternoon mincha tefillah. But throughout the entire month of Nisan, we do not say them, because Nisan is a special, blessed month. Throughout the first 12 days of the month of Nisan, in many congregations, each morning, the verses from the book of Numbers that I mentioned before that describe the particular gifts given by each of the 12 tribes is read. Of course, each day corresponding to the Nasi, to the head of that particular tribe that brought the gifts that day. After that brings us to the 12th day, and of course by that time we're almost on the eve of Passover, so hopefully we are very near final preparations for the Seder, for the festival. And of course the 14th of Nisan is the actual day which in temple times the people brought their Passover offerings, their Korban Pesach, up to the temple, into the inner courtyards of the temple, and slaughtered them there, and then brought them back after the blood was dashed against the altar by the Kohanim. Then they would bring them back into Jerusalem, because the entire nation would of course stay in Jerusalem and have their Korban Pesach and their Seder in Jerusalem. Jerusalem was opened up to all people, to the entire nation, and people who lived in Jerusalem opened their houses and their courtyards. Everybody had a place. And of course Passover is a 7-day holiday, and then brings us to, of course, the second day of Passover is the Omer offering, the offering of the first harvest of barley. And of course we begin then the Sfirat Omer, the counting of the Omer that we do for 49 days, which leads up to Shavuot. And of course in modern times, in the state of Israel, following Passover, in the final week of Nisan, we have Holocaust Memorial Day, and then we have Yom HaZikaron, Israel Memorial Day for fallen soldiers, and then of course Yom HaAtzmaut, which are Israel Independence Day, which are going to be very, very heavy days this year because of what we've been going through this past year. It's going to be very, very emotionally difficult times, but this is how we roll here in Israel. This is how the Jewish people roll. We take our losses, mourn our losses, and celebrate what we have. And we have much, and there's much to celebrate. Anyway, this is where we're at. So much excitement, so much going on, and again, we're doing this year with a background, not even in the background of war, from all sides. From all sides we have war. In fact, yesterday a drone that was launched from Iraq, a Iranian-backed militia in Iraq, launched a drone toward Israel's southernmost city of Eilat. It's not the first time that drones have been aimed at Eilat, but it is the first time that one actually hit a structure and caused slight damage. But it's a red light for Israel, and it passed over Jordanian space. They did not detect it. So Israel is at war on all its borders, and internationally we're fighting for our lives. If we don't sound panicked or overly emotional, it's because we are focused and determined, and we have to do this, and we'll do this. Because, yes, a nation that dwells alone, the heathen prophet Bilam described us as such those thousands of years ago, and yeah, we still are a nation that dwells alone. Ultimately, when push comes to shove, many of our friends walk away. Many of our international friends walk away, and more than that, they condemn what Israel's doing. They pressure Israel to stop doing, but we have no choice, and we do have one ally in existence, and that one ally is the one and the only God of Israel, the creator of the world and the shaper of mankind, and the guardian of Israel. And we trust in Hashem and in Hashem only. And we've gotten through difficult times before. We'll get through this as well. And on the other side of the battle will be tremendous leaps forward in every which way for the people of Israel. And inasmuch if humanity takes our lead, it will be great things for humanity. So I would suggest that people wake up and understand that this is a battle of good against evil. We're battling bloodthirsty, vicious, heartless terrorists without a conscience, people who have trashed their Tselem Elohim, they've trashed their godly image. And we can't live in a world that's occupied by those kind of people. So they have to be eradicated, removed, and their followers have to be re-educated toward tolerance and love of themselves. Because if you love yourself, you'll love another. Right? Love your neighbor as yourself. You have to love yourself to love others. And people who are filled with hatred clearly have very little self-respect. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the world, and it's upon us. It's upon us, the children of Hashem, to do that work. Another amazing facet of the month of Nisan, these 10 crowns, they parallel the 10 sayings of Hashem that brought the world into creation. And of course there's a machloket, a difference of opinion in Jewish tradition as to when the world was created. Some say it was created in Tishrei, right? The month of Tishrei, the month of Rosh Hashanah, which actually the first day of Rosh Hashanah is actually the 6th day of creation, the day that Adam was created. Some say it was created in Nisan, the day that the tabernacle was first inaugurated. And of course, both sides are correct. And a simple way of putting it is the physical world was created in Tishrei, but the spiritual world didn't come into full fruition until Nisan, which is the month of the liberation, the Geula, the exodus of Israel from Egypt, and the month of the inauguration of the tabernacle. And the tabernacle, of course, is the final act of creation, because it's the act in which enables Hashem to fill our lives, right? The crown of creation with His presence, near presence, imminent presence. And of course, this is an accomplishment that involved partnership between Israel and Hashem, between mankind and Hashem, and that's how it works. Hashem has created this world in order to share it with His beloved creation, and to share the responsibility for the world's upkeep. It's a precious world. Let's take care of it. Thank you so much for being with me. Temple Talk.